There comes a moment in life when everything appears fine on the surface. You wake up, go through your routine, answer messages, meet responsibilities, and still, a quiet ache lingers. Not loud, not alarming, just a whisper beneath the noise. Something feels off. Not wrong, just empty. This isn't dysfunction. It's not a flaw in your thinking. Carl Jung believed this strange unrest is a calling from the unconscious, a soft awakening of the soul, nudging you toward something deeper. That ache you feel, it's not your enemy, it's your compass. When the life you've built begins to feel like it no longer fits, don't panic. You're not falling apart. You're unfolding into truth. Most of us have spent years walking a path shaped by expectations, practical, approved, even applauded. But somewhere along that path, something inside begins to feel hollow. That quiet discomfort, it's not a breakdown. It's the beginning of becoming. It's the moment the shell of the false self begins to crack, making space for your real self to breathe. It can feel disorienting, lonely. But this stage, this beautiful unraveling, is sacred. It's the start of individuation, the process of becoming who you really are underneath the masks, the habits and the noise. In this video, we'll explore 5 profound signs that what you're feeling isn't collapse, it's alignment. You're not behind. You're in a sacred transition, in dialogue with your soul. And the path ahead isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. The day arrives quietly. You stop being able to pretend. The things you once used to distract or define yourself stop working. Long work hours, social masks, the urge to always be needed, they lose their meaning. Suddenly everything feels empty. You're tired, not just in your body, but in your soul. And you wonder, how long have I been carrying this weight just to avoid meeting myself? Jung understood that what we bury never disappears. It waits. And when the distractions no longer soothe, the hidden parts return. Your grief, your unmet needs, your creative longings, your anger. They start to surface, not in chaos, but in subtle ways. You stare out windows longer. You feel emotional at the smallest things. You wake with a heaviness in your chest that has no obvious cause. This is your shadow, the parts you abandoned, asking to be seen. For many, this reawakening begins after a rupture, a breakup, a diagnosis, a child leaving home, a parent's death. Suddenly your old identity no longer fits the life you're in. You try to distract yourself, staying busy, helping others, avoiding stillness. But it doesn't work. Not this time, because this isn't just another hard season. It's a turning point, a sacred homecoming disguised as confusion. You begin to see patterns with painful clarity. How you overextended yourself just to feel worthy. How you blurred your boundaries to avoid being left. How you shaped yourself into someone others could need, all to avoid needing yourself. And then something inside says, enough. Not out of anger, but out of truth. Not because you're falling apart, but because you're finally breaking free. This is where true healing begins. Not the soothing kind, but the kind that requires courage. You stop outrunning your past. You cry in ways you never let yourself. You speak truths that shake the world around you. It's raw. It's real. It's uncertain. And underneath it all, there is relief. Because for the first time in years, you're not pretending. You begin making different choices. Saying no, even when it disappoints others. Taking rest, even when it earns judgment. Refusing to hustle for worth. You hear a new voice beneath the noise. Not your fear, not your ego, but your essence. It doesn't beg or shout. It invites, and slowly you begin to follow. That ache, that discomfort, it's not failure. It's your awakening bell. You are not lost. You are being called back to yourself, to the parts that waited in silence to be reclaimed. And as you return, something shifts. You realize the life you seek isn't somewhere far ahead. It's already within reach, in this breath, this truth, this moment of honesty. Because it's here, in the stillness you once avoided, that your soul finally speaks. You got everything you were told would fulfill you. The house, the title, the applause. And still, you felt empty. It's subtle at first. You smile at the party. You say thank you. But inside, you feel hollow. You hit milestones that used to feel like dreams. And yet, something inside is missing. That emptiness isn't failure. It's a wake-up call, a silent unraveling of everything false. A gentle nudge from the soul asking, is this all there is? You begin to question the very foundation of your life. Maybe the version of success you built wasn't yours to begin with. Maybe you were climbing someone else's ladder. Maybe the roles you played were never in tune with your inner rhythm. Carl Jung called this the call of the self. The moment your deeper identity begins to rise, beneath the masks, beyond the performance, and it hurts. Because you realize you were living someone else's definition of fulfillment. You stayed loyal. You worked hard. You showed up, but the cost was yourself. Maybe you were the caregiver because no one else could be. Maybe you chased success because your childhood was chaotic. Maybe you built a polished version of yourself to finally feel like enough. These choices were never mistakes. They were survival. But the soul cannot thrive in survival. It craves meaning. And when that longing awakens, it disrupts everything. You start to notice how often you perform instead of speak. How many relationships depended on your silence. How often you censored your real thoughts to keep the peace. You crave authenticity, not perfection, not applause, just something real. This isn't collapse. It's breakthrough. It's the soul shaking free of illusions. You're not breaking down. You're waking up. And yes, others may not understand. They might say you've changed, that you're ungrateful or too sensitive. But they can't see the quiet revolution inside your heart. You're choosing peace over performance, truth over duty, wholeness over image. If you stay too long in a life that doesn't reflect you, your soul dims. Fatigue grows, joy fades, laughter feels distant. These aren't failures. They're sacred signals. Jung believed each of us carries a personal myth, a symbolic story waiting to unfold. This myth isn't about fame or power. It's about resonance. And the moment you stop asking, "What should I do?" and begin asking, "What feels right?" you begin to live that myth. It's not easy. You may lose people, disappoint expectations, but you'll finally feel alive, not as an idea, but as a presence. Even the confusion becomes meaningful. Even the detours become sacred, because you're not chasing anymore. You're coming home. And when you stop performing, you become too much for some people. At first, the shift is subtle. You say no when you used to say yes. You stop forcing small talk. You leave the party early. You stare into space instead of replying. You stop being the fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who holds everything together. You feel the weight of how much you used to abandon yourself to belong. And when you stop, the backlash comes. They say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're not who you used to be. And they're right. You're not. You're becoming. The version of you they loved was shaped by how much you gave up your own needs. Carl Jung called this the death of the persona, the mask we wear to survive. It's not evil. It once served you, but now it suffocates. It's too tight. It hurts to keep it on. The more truthful you become, the more artificial your old life feels. It gets lonely. You miss people who no longer feel like home. You question yourself. But this isn't isolation. It's initiation. You're crossing a threshold. It hurts not because you failed, but because you've outgrown the role. You love these people. You wanted them to come with you. But growth doesn't always bring others along. Your truth will scare those who are still hiding from theirs. You stepping into your light will cast shadows on their own denial, and they may push back. Not from cruelty, but fear. You are no longer playing the role they assigned. You are disrupting the story, and not everyone is ready. But you are, and that readiness is sacred. This moment, the crack in your old life, is not collapse. It's passage. Every goodbye opens the door for someone who sees your fullness. Every "you've changed" is confirmation you're waking up. Individuation is not about becoming better. It's about becoming whole, even if that wholeness costs you comfort, even if it's misunderstood. If you feel unseen, remember, you are finally seeing yourself. And that clarity is not a loss. It's your beginning. Then comes a strange peace. The map you followed begins to blur. The roles dissolve. The plans unravel. And instead of panic, there's peace. You're no longer trying to force life into something that no longer fits. You stop chasing. You start trusting. Not in outcomes, but in resonance. Maybe you turn down a job that once meant everything. Maybe you leave a relationship that isn't broken, just misaligned. Maybe you follow a pull you can't explain. You're not impulsive. You're listening. Jung taught that the unconscious isn't chaos, it's symbolic intelligence.
It speaks in dreams.
Instincts, synchronicity. In the quiet yes or no you feel in your bones. To live a real life, you must follow resonance, not rules. This is a paradox. You don't know where things are going, but you feel grounded. You're uncertain, yet anchored. Life becomes simple, vivid. Take the woman who left her corporate career. Not from burnout, but from knowing. She returned to painting, something she buried at 19. Her art doesn't hang in galleries, but her mornings are sacred. Her soul is alive. Or the man who stopped chasing worth through performance. He slowed down. He journaled. He listened. He said no more often. And he found joy. Not in fixing, but in being. This is alignment. This is freedom. You stop proving. You start connecting. You say no from peace. You say yes from truth. And life begins to respond. The right people arrive. The right doors open, not from force but flow. This is individuation. The becoming of yourself, not an ego, not a mask, but a soul in motion. And then something beautiful happens. You stop chasing purpose, and it finds you. The question shifts. From what do they expect to what feels honest? You stop measuring days by productivity. You start honoring your own rhythm. You pause before saying yes. You check if it costs you peace. Jung said once you follow your inner compass, life stops being performance. It becomes presence. You no longer live for applause. You live from truth. Purpose doesn't shout. It whispers. It arrives in small clarity. You find yourself noticing the light on the floor, the breeze on your skin. Your soul opens in the quiet. You begin gardening again. You cancel dinner to walk under the stars. You let the phone ring. You breathe. You listen. And slowly life aligns. Old patterns fade. Synchronicities multiply. You meet the right people. You hear the right words. The world reflects your inner shift. Purpose becomes presence. You speak to your child with softness. You listen to your partner with patience. You tend to your soul with care. And your life becomes poetry. Not loud, not perfect, but true. This isn't confusion. This is the birth of who you really are.